Tuesday, May 13th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we bring you the board/card/party game, Citadels.
Let's do this.
I'm real glad that I left the Windows on my laptop.
Yeah, I also bought the Civ 4 on my fancy new computer.
And I would never play it at home. I have too much to do. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I'd come home and I'd sit there in front of the computer for like 5 hours playing Civ 2 while doing other things. But I don't have the kind of time anymore. But now, by having Steam on my laptop, I've been playing Civ 4 every day on the train. And let me tell you, the Roman Empire under Gaius Fenius Clodius doing pretty shittily.
Roman, not so good. It's all about the Xerxes action.
Nah.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is that Civ 4, so far from what I've played, is rivaling Civ 2 in how fun it is.
It's pretty much just the same game, only modernized, so why wouldn't it?
There's more to it than that, because Civ 3 was more like Civ 2 modernized, but it wasn't as good in my opinion.
Well, they did some sort of weird kind of things in it. Some of those things they kept in Civ 4, and some of the things they didn't.
I feel like they learned a lot from Civ 3, and Civ 4 so far is super, super fun.
And I bought Civ 3 like the day it came out or whatever, and then I played it some, but not nearly as much, not even close to as much as I've played like Civ 2. It was like a drop in the bucket, even compared to like there are games where I like play them once, I beat them, I don't play them again. I played Civ 3 like less than some of those games.
Yeah, I never bought Civ 3, but I played it a bunch. And Civ 4 is just doing it for me. I mean, I think what really gets me is that the game is actually balanced to the point where you don't have to always do everything as every civilization.
That's my problem, though, is it's not, no matter what the game does, the game might be all good, but it's like I need to have every wonder. I need to build every single domestic improvement in every single city. I need to have every single science. I need to have everything maxed out, and then I will build military units and fight people. It's like...
See, that's why we need to play a multiplayer, because while your Persian la-di-da is going on with your science and your books, the armies of Rim's Rome... Well, I'll march in with my one warrior, take all that nice fancy science, make my own gunpowder, and take over the rest of the world.
That's the thing, is I always build like 2 defense guys in each city, just to, but that's it.
See, I use a kind of perimeter defensive depth where I actually I'll post units away from my cities that can hold bad guys off just long enough for me to, I guess, step up domestic production.
And see, that's the thing, is like the effort it takes to like build a unit and move him out there is like, I hate doing that.
In Civ 4, it's practically 0.
Yeah, I know, and then it's like, those few turns it takes to build that unit, I could have been building a wonder or something.
Yeah, you know what? All that time Rome was building legions to defend itself from barbarian invasions, they could have just been building more roads.
I know, right?
The problem is, God, in the real world, barbarians were there, and they kept coming. I mean, as it seems like in history, Russia...
But I can usually build one strong guy to go around and kill all barbarians.
Except that didn't work so well.
It worked for me in Civ 2.
See, the real world, historically, is actually a lot like Gauntlet. Because you're trying to play your game and do your stuff over in Rome and Greece, but you never destroy that monster generator in Russia, and it just keeps making barbarians.
Does death randomly show up when you have no potions?
Around the 1300s, he did.
Yeah.
They didn't have any potions then.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap. Too soon?
Too soon. But yeah, even today, where I called in sick despite not being sick. I'm sure no one listens to this at my work, and they wouldn't care anyway. But I had to call in sick because I had to do laundry and clean the bathroom and go get an oil change, but I failed at that, and do all sorts of other stuff.
Well, you didn't fail. The Valvoline failed you.
Yeah, the Valvoline failed me. That's the second time. There's a close Valvoline and a far-away Valvoline. The far-away Valvoline has always been great. The close one sucks. And this is the second time the close one has sucked with the exact same suckage. So I'm just not going to go to that one anymore. And I guess the next time we go down the road, whenever, I'll just go to the far-away Valvoline.
I usually go to the one in Newburgh.
Yeah, I didn't feel like going to Newburgh, though.
The thing is, it's not any further away than the one over here.
I know, but I had to pay the toll.
It's $1.
So that's $1.
You know what? If you were at that shitty Valvoline and they said, no, we don't have your oil filter, would you have paid $1 for them to have suddenly had it?
Yes.
Well then. Well, there we go.
Anyway, how do I know that Valvoline across the river would have had it though?
I've never had a problem there.
Anyway. Point is, took a day off, got everything done, or at least a lot of things done. Went to the post office, doing good stuff. So now I'm all cleared up, and I was able to play lots of video games. And I played some Bioshocks.
How far did you get? You enjoying that game?
I killed a doctor.
You know what? As long as I've owned the game, that's as far as I got.
And then
I killed the doctor, and I haven't really played it since. I forgot what I was doing.
Yeah, then I killed one of those, guys on the box cover.
That's actually where I saved the game. The game sets you up. They're like, yeah, here's the deal with those things and those girls. And then they're like, all right. And you walk out, and then immediately there's one there. And you're like, I could kill it, or I could just keep walking.
The thing is, in that game, it's like, I'll die, and then I'll keep running out of ammo and the other stuff. And it's just like, but you can die infinity times because you always come back to life. But it's just, it's so like, all right, do it again, because I never have enough ammo and stuff at any one time where I can just zoom through the game without having to constantly die and redo bits. Anyway,
Yeah,
also I played,
practice, I think.
I played some Mario Kart. 150cc on Mario Kart is actually hard. It's not hard.
It's not hard because it's hard. It's hard because I'll be in first place, then I get hit by 7 blue shells.
Yeah, it's like if you think that annoying shit happens in the 50 and the 100cc, it happens like times 1,000 in the 150cc.
Like yesterday, because I skipped the 100cc and went straight to the 150 just to beat the single player crap. And I remember I was in first place, three races in a row. All I had to do was do okay in the last race to win.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last race, I got hit by a series of items that put me from first place to 12th place. And I ended in 12th. And as a result, I lost.
The worst I landed in was 11th, but yeah, that's a bad time.
It was literally, I got hit by a blue shell, and as I recovered, I got hit by red shell, and then a star went past me, and then 12th place passed me as a bullet bill, knocked me over, went over the finish line. I just turned the Wii off, went upstairs.
I'll get through it, and hopefully that'll unlock. I'm guessing as to what it will unlock, but I'm hoping that it unlocks the play the tracks in reverse mode.
You could just read the internet.
I know, but I love that mode because it's like you get twice as many tracks, even though you don't really get twice as many tracks.
Plus, I mean, Peach Gardens is really fun in reverse.
Yeah, it's a good one. And otherwise I was playing the Lost Winds? I forgot. I don't even remember the name of the game.
The game on the WiiWare?
The WiiWare game, which I'm about to geek bite.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm playing, I guess it's Lost Winds, right? And it's this WiiWare game, and I guess it cost me, $10, I think, technically, because it was 1,000 Wii points, right? Game, definitely worth $10. I can tell you that.
It's really pretty, and I like the style. I like everything about it.
Yeah, I mean the production values, visually and audibly of the game compared to other $10 games, it blows them out of the water. I don't know how long the game is.
It blows them out of the water.
Yeah. I don't know how long the game is because I've only played a tiny bit of it, but I've played enough to get the ideas. Basically, you control this little guy with the analog stick on the nunchuck, all right? And then everything else you do with the Wiimote, and you'll be blowing. You're blowing the little guy up into the air because he can't jump, all right? But also you'll be doing stuff like make him fall down slowly so he doesn't get hurt, blow bad guys around so they die, blow fire from a torch into a wooden thing so it burns, blow water onto a plant so it grows.
See, now this is the kind of stuff, it's kind of like the DS. You can make a game for the DS that uses the stylus maybe, but it's just a good game that happens to be on the DS. Or you can make a game that does something innovative with the stylus, like Kirby's Canvas Curse.
Yep. I mean, on one hand, a lot of the stuff in the game, it's sort of just like a touch things and watch something happen game. Sort of like, you go to the arcade and they'll have those Wild West shoot things and you shoot the targets and then you shoot a target and a guy will come in the salute and then you'll shoot a hat and the hat will fly off.
Those were a lot more fun if you were in a little car and it wasn't cowboys but pirates.
Yes.
And the animatronic pirates were all broken.
Yes. But, it's sort of like one of those games because a lot of the game is walk around and you blow on stuff. You'll blow on some people and they'll go, ooh, and that's it. It's sort of like you're just touching things to watch them animate. But most of the stuff in the game actually does something, and you're like, oh, and you sort of, it's not always obvious. Like, they don't tell you, use the fire to burn that thing, but you sort of, you're aiming at the screen, you put the wind near some fire, and the fire starts to move. So then you go, huh, and you blow the fire out, and it makes these big fireballs, like, boom, and then, you touch some wood with it, and whoa, there you go, it burned. Look at that. It's cool stuff. The only problem I'm having with the game so far is that they said, go to the west of the falls, and then he's like, hey, that's where you woke up. I went to, and they're like, there's a shrine there. I go to the west of the falls to the shrine. It's a shrine I already got a while ago, and I'm like, huh, oh, where do I go now? And there's no facts on the internet, so I'm like,
I'm sure there's already a fact.
no, there isn't. I checked.
How far did you check?
Game facts.
Uh-huh.
And Google.
And Google. If you wait a week, there'll be a fact.
I'm sure, but basically, I'm gonna just have to go. I'm gonna have to ignore the guy telling me to go west of the waterfall and just go fucking everywhere until I can find something new, because I'm a little bit lost.
You must have missed something.
I must have.
Maybe the game's not. I mean, it might not have the polish of a Nintendo first-party game.
Well, Nintendo did say that they were checking the games for bugs, and they were checking the games for ESRB ratings, and that was it. Then they would put them up. So
yeah, but I mean, games that aren't a first-party Nintendo game. And when I say games that aren't a first-party Nintendo game, I mean across all kinds of gaming.
Yeah,
aren't quite put to the rigorous, not so much bug checking, but in terms of like player guiding, like game design testing that Nintendo seems to hold their games to.
But the rest of the game seems like it's a very high level of production quality. Why would they screw up something like this,
It's really easy to overlook things like that, though.
Yeah.
Just little things like, where do you go now?
Yep. Oh, well. Well, we'll see where the game goes, but if you got a Wii and you got $10, right? And you're looking for a game to play, it's kind of hard to go wrong with this little guy. I mean, if you like Kirby's Canvas Curse or any of those sorts cute, short, innovative type of things, this is where it's at.
Now, the real news here is that I think WiiWare is going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Well, the other things in the WiiWare, I didn't check them out yet. Some of them seem meh. Some of them seem okay. We'll see what it goes, but I'm waiting for the Dr. Mario. That's what I'm waiting for.
Dr. Mario, I'm waiting for the dev kit.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that. We need a company first.
We're working on that. I mean, I have a feeling that we could make something for the WiiWare that would be amazing.
Probably.
We got a couple
I don't know
ideas.
if we could do Lost Winds quality, though.
I don't know. We got some talent.
Yeah, but it's a lot harder.
When I say we've got some talent, I mean we know people who have some talent we could collaborate with.
Yeah, I don't know if we have Lost Winds level of... it might take us a few games to get up that high.
Well, we start with some sort of, 2D board game, and then from there you make a tower defense game, and then...
Yeah, we should definitely get a tower defense game. If we can get the first tower defense game on the Wii, and it's a good one, I think we're in business.
But moving on, I kind of just want to get on with the main bit. I'm a little tired, and I'm a little hungry, and there wasn't much video game news I want to talk about. I mean, I guess theoretically there's that whole DRM Securom thing, but what am I going to say about that? Things of the day. Now, a couple of Tuesday nights ago, I mentioned a game called Robin Hood for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I don't remember this at all.
I've brought it up on the show more than once. It's a game that I owned, I played extensively, I loved, at the same time I hated. And it really surprised me that Scott had never heard of the game when I first brought it up.
How would I have heard of it?
It was kind of...
You know how many games there were for the NES?
Yes, and you know what? It's weird, but I think I recognize the names of almost all of them.
No, I don't think so.
At least all the ones in the U.S.
I don't think so.
Well, I owned about 70 of them, so...
Yeah, that's still... There's way lots of them. There's a lot of really obscure ones that, like, nobody owned.
This one wasn't that obscure, though. This was one of those $1 million... All right. So, we got this movie, this Robin Hood movie. We're going to make the game based on the movie.
Men in Tights?
Man. No, not Men in Tights. The quote-unquote real Robin Hood movie where Robin of Locksley and all that crap.
You mean Men in Tights?
No.
No. Okay.
I do. Men in Tights is, however, a most excellent movie.
Uh-huh.
But no, there was a Nintendo Entertainment System game, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And I don't know how easily I can express to you what the hell this game was about.
It looks terrible to me.
It's actually not that bad. The only real problem with this game is that it was kind of, I don't know, it tried to do too much with it, as Rama would say. You tried to do too much with it. This is one of those games that pushed what the NES and the NES controller were capable of.
Yeah, this really looks like it should have been a DOS game, but instead it was an NES game.
So how would you make a Robin Hood game? You could make like a side-scrolling bow and arrow game.
That sounds good.
You could make a top-scrolling shmup like bow and arrow game.
I would make sort of a Zelda type of game.
That's kind of what this is, kind of. You could make a war game, like, you know, you're Robin Hood, and you set up, like, ambushes in the woods, and you set up your stuff, and then you have battles, and, you know, you do all sorts of
A little
things.
North versus South action.
Something like that.
Only instead of robbing trains for gold in the Civil War, you're robbing wagon trains in England for gold for
Man,
the poor.
North versus South needs to be on the Virtual Console.
It sure does.
And we need to play it. That game was so shitty.
That game is great.
It's great if you like really...
It's awesome.
No, I'm
I'm
like
not
that
even
game.
joking.
I like that game a lot. I really enjoyed that game. But that game is a shit game.
It's a good game.
Yes, except if anyone who knows how to play it plays against anyone else who knows how to play it, you get into that get to the end of the stage thing, and whoever's on the defensive has one guy just stand there and trap you, and you're done. And then you get into a battle, and
gotta have
both
the
sides,
skills.
neither side will move ever,
I'll move. I'll send my horsies over.
and I'll just shoot him.
No, I'll chop you down.
You
Chop,
can't.
chop, chop, chop. Yeah, I
It's
can.
impossible to.
Or you could play the cannon shooting game.
But then you run out of bullets and your cannon dies.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter. The cannon's not that useful anyway.
The cannon's really useful. You blow up the bridge.
Yeah. But if you blow up the bridge, how do you send your guys over?
You wait for the other person to give up and commit suicide. That's how I usually play that game. I blow up the bridge and say, either you're going to kill yourself or we're going to sit here. Or you're going to concede defeat. That is why it is an awesome game, but simultaneously a shitty game.
Yeah.
But anyway, Robin Hood. This game begins in the Crusades, and it follows the movie.
Sort of like how Men in Tights begins the Crusades.
Did you ever actually see the real Robin Hood movie that Men in Tights was making fun of?
I've only seen Men in Tights, and I've read Robin Hood book.
You really haven't seen Prince of Thieves?
No.
I've
never seen any serious Robin Hood movies.
Wow.
Like, oh, maybe I guess Disney isn't serious, is it?
I'd say it's serious.
No, well, you're a furry, so
Man, that Disney Robin Hood is the best Robin Hood.
no.
Yeah, definitely.
No, not
But
even.
anyway, this game is based on Prince of Thieves, and you're Robin of Locksley, and you're in the Crusades, and you escape, and then you meet the Moor, and Peter, and all these people. But Peter dies, and along the way, and it's an RPG where you get these characters into your party, and you equip people with armor and weapons and all this stuff with all these subscreens, and it's super complicated. And sometimes you're walking around all Willow for the NES style. And sometimes you have a duel where it's side-scrolling sword fighting. And it's great
Like
because...
Sid Meier's Pirates?
Yeah, but kind of better than that. Actually, a lot better than that.
But the Sid Meier's Pirates are good.
It was okay. But then, don't forget, there's also... Eventually you get the Sword of Locksley, which is magical. But...
Okay.
But the game is super, like, text RPG. It also has melee mode, or as the kids down the street said, melee mode.
Melee.
Melee.
Super Smash Brothers Melee.
King DDD.
It is DDD.
I know. No, I'm saying Today Day, and I'm not going to switch.
All right, we'll see about that.
Today Day is far superior.
Mr. Physical Plant.
I still say physical plant.
Yeah. Anyway,
so the game follows the movie up to a point. And I think one of the moments of departure is when the people in your village in the trees become ill with the disease. And to cure them, you go to the magic springs of something or other to get the holy water to save
They
everybody.
always got to be tossing magic in there.
But the
Can't
magic
just leave it-
springs
you can't just leave it
are
mundane.
full of poisonous monsters.
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing. There's a lot of... Plus, you find random pieces of meat, and you eat these pieces of meat, and there's a million items, and a million weapons, and a million things. The game was glitchy as all fuck. My thing of the day is that this game exists, and here's some YouTubes that will show you everything you need to know about this game, including the end.
All right, so you ever play Missile Command? You know, the game where at the bottom you got a gun and at the top there's missiles coming to get you?
I might have, Rabbit. I might have.
And then you sort of shoot on the screen, and when you shoot, the things you're shooting blow up in midair, and they destroy the incoming missiles with your ground-to-air missiles.
Missile
right?
Command is a great game.
It's a pretty good game.
I think it was one of my favorite games on the Atari when I was a
The
kid.
original the arcade Missile Command was played with a trackball, and
which
then
made it much superior.
and then little tiny buttons so that you could, and the little tiny buttons you would put your fingers on would shoot from the different missile launchers on the bottom. So there'd be like 3 missile launchers, and you could shoot from the left, the middle, or the right. But if they got destroyed, then you couldn't use that missile launcher anymore. Or if you emptied that missile launcher of missiles, then you couldn't shoot from it anymore.
Man, there needs to be
Until
some
the next
versus
level.
Missile Command on the WiiWare.
Yeah, it'd be all right. So, and then, like, on the NES and the Atari, like, you would use the joystick or the numpad to, like, move this little dot around instead of using a trackball. And there's a lot of missile commands for the computer where you use the mouse. Those are pretty good. And I think there was a DS one where you use the stylus. That was okay, right? But this missile command that I'm showing you a video of is perhaps the best missile command interface ever. And I think the military should adapt this technology in their missile defense strategy.
Well, at least against missiles on a 2-dimensional plane.
Exactly. Basically, check this out. They have a multi-touch projection screen, right? So you can touch it in multiple places at once. And you touch it, and wherever you touch is where the missiles go. And the problem here is that they have infinity missiles, which is sort of makes it a dumb game because you just touch all the incoming bombs or missiles and you destroy them all, and that's it. But if they limited the missiles that you could shoot, this would actually be a really good game of Missile Command, and I think that they should implement this in an awesome way. And, watching the video itself is actually pretty cool and pretty interesting, especially if you have ever played the Missile Command. You understand the Missile Command.
But seriously,
Missile Command.
Missile Command
Also,
on the WiiWare.
as a side note, if you're interested in Missile Command, you should do some research on the internet about the story of Missile Command 2 and how like there were a few machines and they were like test machines and you can't get them and there's like one and the game's all weird and yeah, it's a pretty crazy story of video game history that you
if I was a wealthy member of the Idle Rich, I would probably take it upon myself to own that machine.
Well, it'd be very difficult.
Well, because obviously, the bottom floor of my mansion would also be a classic video gaming museum.
Duh. All right.
Oh, and there's one other thing that's very important. So that Robin Hood game,
Yeah.
when you beat it, has the kiss, and the kiss is pretty epic.
Good God.
It's in the video. I recommend you watch it. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk about not a video game, but actually a card game.
It's a card game, but it comes in a box.
It's a board game.
So it counts like a board game, but it's a card game, even though you're using cards. Well, there's cards and there's little tokens that represent gold.
It's, actually, we'll go one step further. Regardless of whether you say it's a card game or a board game, it is a party game.
Pretty much. So the game is called Citadels, and it's by, I forget the French guy's name. Hold on.
Bruno Faiduti. I
hope it's Faiduti and not Faiduti.
I picked the thing up because, who wrote it? Crap, I forgot. And I flip it over and I looked where the author normally would, and it's by Roulette Book. Ah, shit.
Roulette Book. It's published in the U.S. by Fantasy Flight Games, and you can actually get it in like a little tiny box, not the big box we have it in.
Now, I'll start by saying that if you're looking for a light game to play with friends, especially at a party,
especially if you have exactly 7 friends plus yourself to make 8 people.
Though, gaga. Fewer people actually works pretty well. The game scales for anywhere from 2 to like 8 or 9 people.
Yeah, 2 is a little weird, but if you have at least 4 to 8, it's good. But you can play it with 2 or 3. It works. But anyway, here's the basic deal of Citadels, right? There are 8 jobs or people. There's like these 8 job cards.
We'll call them roles.
Roles, okay. 8 roles, right? The assassin, the thief, the magician, the king, the bishop, the merchant, the architect, and the warlord. All right. So on your turn, basically on every turn, right? One person takes the deck of all 8 roles, and depending on how many players there are, they may or may not discard some of these roles, right?
Yeah, like they might discard one face up and one
I
face
think you
down.
can only play with 7 people because they always discard one at the beginning, right?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, anyway. And the first player secretly selects one of the roles and then passes all the cards to the person to the left.
But he also, secretly discards one, depending on the number of players, obviously.
Right, that's right. You can only play with 7 players because there are 8 roles. You secretly discard one, and then you take one, and you pass to the left. So now the second person looks at all the 6 remaining rolls, and they know the person to the right of them is one of the 2 that are missing, but they don't know which of those 2, right? And then they pick one and pass it to the left. And then that person knows, okay, the 2 people to the right of me, one of them, there's 3 missing rolls, and there's 2 people to the right of me. So one of those, right? And so on and so forth. And the last person just sort of takes the last remaining roll, and then I think the last person, they get 2 rolls.
The last person always gets a choice.
Yeah, they get 2 rolls. They pick one of the 2 remaining rolls, and they discard the final one.
But none of that matters. All you need to know is that you'll go around passing the deck, and everyone will choose a roll semi-secretly. And depending on the left-right mechanics, you know a little bit about. Like, you know that no one before you took any of the rolls that you see.
You're never 100% sure who's what, but you have information about who is what.
Now, this is the really interesting part of this game. On your turn, you basically have a standard action and then the special action that your dude lets you do. And you have cards, and you're trying to build buildings. The objective of the game is to build 8 buildings, and then, the game will end, and whoever has the most points based on what buildings you have built wins.
The real goal of the game is the building of buildings to get points.
Like I just said.
Yes, but the building of the buildings is pretty much just a side effect of the game where you choose the roles. So it's like if you win the game where you choose the roles, the buildings themselves are sort of just scorekeeping of the role selection.
But anyway, the gist of the game is that you take actions based on these roles, not knowing who anyone else's role is, and actions you take against other players, with one exception, are taken based on the role. So if this doesn't quite make sense, let's say number 1, the assassin. Let's say I choose the assassin. When we actually play the game, where everyone has their role, the king calls out the roles one by one in order. So first he calls out the assassin. And then the assassin flips over the card.
Not the king, the crown, but yeah.
Whatever. No, the king wears the crown.
Right.
He holds the crown, and then he gives up the crown.
Right.
Anyway, I don't think that the specifics of the rules matter, and I don't think anyone cares.
I think it's just,
I
don't want to be confusing.
I don't think it matters.
All right.
Anyway.
Stop being all A.
So, the assassin, I'm the assassin. I flip over my card. Everyone goes, ah, shit, Rim's the assassin. Now, I don't say, I'm going to assassinate Scott. I say, I'm going to assassinate the merchant or the magician.
Right. So he doesn't know if I'm the magician or the merchant. He can sometimes guess.
Now, here's the fun part.
Sometimes logically deduce.
I'm going to read for you from the description of the assassin. Announce the title of another character that you wish to murder. The player who has the murdered character must say nothing and must remain silent when that character's name is called upon to take his turn. The murdered character misses his entire turn.
Right, so basically everyone takes their turn, except this one person just keeps quiet
so the king
whole time.
Like, say I murdered the magician. Then the king calls out the thief. And then he calls out the magician, and everyone laughs because someone didn't get to go. Usually the person who didn't get to go goes something, he says something along the lines of, fuckers.
Yeah.
You ass.
But only at the end of the turn. So basically, when you get to the end of the turn, after you do the warlord, which is the final roll to take, because they're numbered 1 to 8, and whoever the 8th one goes last always. So that's why the assassin always goes first, right? At the end, you'll know who the murdered person was because they're the only person who didn't go. So you're just like, but you don't find out until the very end because, before the final roll is called, there's 2 people left. And, one of them was the person who got killed and one of them isn't.
Now, you keep going, and then, the thief is called. The thief is the same as the assassin, but instead of killing the other character, they steal all of their gold.
Yep.
All of it.
Now, the assassin could kill the thief. But the assassin always goes before the thief. So the assassin, why would they kill the thief? Because they don't have to worry about their gold being stolen because they can spend all their gold before the thief gets to take their turn.
Unless it's near the end of the game and they know that logically whoever is winning, if they're not winning, and the assassin is not an option because you took the assassin, is going to take the thief in order to go earlier and build their building and win the game. And thus you assassinate the thief. But then they know that, and thus the problem of this game.
The game is pretty much just which cup is poison game.
Yes. The poison is in both cups.
Pretty much.
The game is very fun in that you can logically deduce down to a point. But if you are smart, you can deduce perfectly to the point that it comes down to an arbitrary 50-50 decision every time in every action you take. And as a result, as per, I guess, the principles of game theory, whenever a decision is arbitrary,
choose randomly.
You must act randomly.
Yep. So if you're given a hand of like 3 rolls to choose from and none of them are really, sort of the obvious better one to take, just shuffle them up and pick one at random.
Now, the thing is, you can't, the truly is you also have to show everyone else that you actually are doing it randomly.
Yep.
Because otherwise, they might still they might try to make decisions based on whatever, or you might be tempted to make a decision when you should just be doing it randomly.
Yep. But yeah, basically the whole game sort of revolves around the gold, because it's like some of the rolls get you gold, some of them allow you to spend more or less gold.
Yeah,
there's
different colored buildings, and then there's 3 different colored rolls where if you're the merchant whose color is green, on your turn, you get extra gold for every green building that you own.
Yep, and you also get extra gold because the merchant gets mad gold.
Now that's where all the meta comes in. All right, so I've got 4 green buildings. Rim wants that merchant because he wants some money.
But getting one of each different color building helps you with the points.
But Scott, who knows that Rim is currently winning, knows that Rim wants to take the merchant, and thus, if he takes the assassin or the thief, especially if Rim has money, he's going to hit the merchant.
Yep.
But Rim knows that, so Rim's not going to take the merchant. Rim's going to take something else. But Scott knows that, so he tries to think, what is the least likely thing Rim would take, and choose that. And thus, smart players all play randomly, and the game breaks down. It isn't fun anymore.
Yep. But for a party game, it's super fun.
This is so fun to play with a big group of people.
Yeah.
It's also a great game to play with people who aren't into German board games or aren't into gaming in any way, because there's kind of a little bit of a role-playing element in, and the game is fun enough and simple enough to where you can get pretty much anyone into playing it.
Yeah, the actual gameplay mostly breaks down to get gold, hold on to the gold long enough without having it be stolen or anything, and then spend it on something, and try to get it. And like, if you keep piling up the gold, it's going to get stolen. But in order to buy the more expensive buildings, you have to pile it up over the course of multiple turns.
And the game is expertly and exquisitely balanced in that regard, because you can only build one building per round.
Yep.
But there is one role who goes near the end as number 7
The
out of 8.
architect.
The architect sketch.
Yep.
The architect can build up to 3 buildings on his turn.
So if you got a lot of money, if Rim has a lot of money, right, he's probably going to take the architect, right?
But the thief knows that Rim wants to take the architect.
So the thief says, I'm going to steal all the money from the architect, because that's the person who's likely to have, a lot of money they want to spend.
And thus, as a result, people tend to avoid the roles that are the most useful to them.
Yes, it's like, well, if Rim takes the architect, obviously he's going to get stolen from. So he'll take, the warlord instead, and he'll use his money to destroy someone's building.
Now, the main reason that this game is so great to play, to get people who aren't gamers into it, is that a lot of people are really turned off from more hardcore games from the fact that they take the game personally, or they play with someone and then someone takes an action that just ruins them in the game and they take it personally, or that bothers them, or why'd you attack me? And this game eliminates that almost entirely, because you never attack a person, with one special exception I'll get to in a second, which is the most fun part of the game. You attack the rolls. So I don't attack Scott, I attack the king.
Yep.
And as a result, it removes the personality from it. It removes the I attacked Scott, I attacked you, and it really makes the game more friendly for a group of casual gamers.
Yeah, it lets you have a game of attacking other people and getting attacked by other people, which a lot of the more party-ish games tend to not have, direct conflict between players. But since you're not attacking the human being, you're attacking the card they've chosen, then people who tend to get pissed off with that kind of game because they have a problem, they can play this kind of game without being upset. And plus, pretty much no matter what you do in this game, you're pretty much forced to attack other people and be attacked constantly. So you're going to get used to it real quick. It's not like a game like, say, Shogun, where, it's like, attacking someone is like special and,
Well, that's a game where you build up for an hour and then suddenly everyone attacks everyone. Ah!
Yeah.
But there is one exception to this, and this really makes the game fun, in my opinion. There is one more role, one special role, the Warlord.
Yeah, the Warlord, you use the Warlord to destroy buildings, other people's buildings. Sometimes your own if there's really a reason to. And you spend money to do it. So if you have a lot of money, you can either build buildings to get your score up or destroy other people's buildings to get their score down. And if you take the score down of the person who's ahead of you or the person who is, in second place if you're in first place, that's just as good as building a building because...
But the real thing to remember is the Warlord attacks a person.
Yeah,
not
it's like
a character.
I don't say I'm going to destroy the architect's building. I say I'm going to destroy that building in front of Rim. That's Rim's building.
That adds so much to the game.
Well, it's sort of necessary because the Warlord is sort of the evener. It's like, okay, if someone is getting way ahead of everyone else, they have a lot of buildings, the Warlord will come and destroy their buildings. So it sort of keeps someone from, running away with the game if no one can guess what they're taking.
But at the same time, it also adds all these mechanics of, all right, Warlord, blah, 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 but the Warlord can be assassinated.
He sure can.
And also, I mean, just to get, so you understand the interplay between all the roles. There's the assassin, the thief, they attack other players. The king gets to choose first on the next round.
The magician gets extra cards.
The architect gets to build extra things and draw extra cards. The merchant gets a shit ton of money. The bishop is immune to the Warlord.
Yeah, the Warlord can't attack the bishop because he's all churchy.
The bishop.
The bishop.
Is
that it?
No, that's not it.
All right.
That's it. I mean, well, that's it about the game. The game is simple, fun. I highly recommend, if you're a gamer of any stripe, to keep this game in your house, in your repertoire, because it's the kind of game, much like Mafia.
It's also cheap.
It is. But it's a game like Mafia where you got a group of people over and you want to entertain them. This will entertain a crowd for hours.
Yeah, quite. It's very, very popular among the non-hardcore gaming types because it's not a typical kind of game. It feels like a hardcore, serious game, but it's not really.
Now, the fun thing is there is an expansion.
It's got a fun fantasy theme.
That I think it comes with it by default now, but doesn't come with every set by default, so look around. But it adds a whole alternate set of characters, like the witch, the tax collector, the wizard, the abbot.
And the way this works is you don't just sort of mix them in with the existing ones, you replace them. So if you want to use, let's say, the witch, you have to take out, the magician, right? And you put the witch in instead. So it's sort of like, if you're bored with the magician, you can use the witch instead. If you're bored with the warlord, you can use the whatever, I forget what the name of it is instead, And it sort of spices the game up a bit, but it doesn't really change the game that much. You still have sort of the same game, just crook slightly so.
And there's a couple of little fun things in the game. Like there's one building that if you have it, I forget the details, but whenever someone is the king, they have to be referred to as Your Majesty or they're punished.
All right, that's a good one.
And there's a bunch of fun things like that. And the game's really fun, but...
Yeah, some of the buildings have special powers, but the special powers don't influence the game that much because it's the amount of those buildings cost versus what the special power gets you.
Now,
it's just as much as a similar costing building with no special power,
What we need to point out, something very important, is that as Scott very obviously pointed out early on in our playing, it's a game you can cheat at.
Yes.
Scott cheated.
I definitely did cheat.
And it was brilliant.
Okay, so here's how I cheated at this game, right? So we were playing a 3-player game, I believe, right?
I think so. It was like, you mean Alex, you mean Pete, I forget.
Right. So I discard, I picked up the rolls. I discarded however many I was supposed to discard. I was first, right? I looked at all the rolls in my hand. I took the roll I was choosing out, and I passed the cards to the left. But I memorized what order the cards were in when I was holding them in my hand.
And then he just looked at what card I chose.
And then Rim was holding the cards. He fanned them out in his hand. He selected one of them, and then he passed them to the left without shuffling them before or after selecting one. So by looking at, I say, oh, he took the third one from the left. That's the such and such. And then he passed it to the left, and then the next person also did the same thing. I said, oh, he took the second one. That's the such and such card, because I remembered the order of the cards because I went first. And the solution to this is when someone passes you the hand of rolls, shuffle them up before you select one. That way, there's no way they can
And if
cheat.
you're selecting randomly, I'll usually shuffle them, and then behind my back, I'll select one.
Yep, that's what I do too.
But I'll point out, if you're playing this game with all your friends, just cheat.
Definitely cheat.
But the thing is, point out that you cheated kind of early on.
I don't even really think that's cheating.
I don't know.
You're not for me, cheating means you break the rules as written in the rule book, and that doesn't break any rules written in the rule book.
That is true. Thus, I recommend that you use this strategy when playing against your friends.
I also recommend it. Another funny story from the game is that there's a rule where, see, basically when you choose the king, right, you get the crown. And then you keep the crown until someone else uses the king. So if no one else uses the king, you still have the crown. And as soon as someone else becomes the king, you give the crown to them, and now they're in charge, right? But we messed up a ruling where if the king is assassinated, right? Let's say I choose the king, but I get assassinated. Well, at the end of the turn, when they find out that it was me who was the king who got assassinated, I get the crown anyway. That's the correct rule. We didn't read that rule. So what's happening is one person took the king and kept assassinating the king, and they stayed the king for the rest of the game because he messed up the rules. Don't let that happen. It makes the game really broken and stupid.
It was actually, however, hilarious. Because
it was hilarious.
I was on the end, so every round, Evan would take the assassin and murder the king. And every round, I would take the king, hoping that in the next round, he would choose either not to take the assassin or not to kill the king. But Evan, being awesome, decided to always assassinate the king.
But mostly, if we hadn't gotten the rule wrong, and Rim would have gotten the crown right away, and then Evan would have gone, oh, and he probably wouldn't have chosen to assassinate the king if he knew the correct rule anyway. So, yeah.
But this game is fun. I highly recommend it. Keep it in your repertoire, especially if you like games like Mafia or anything like that.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's got poison cup action, it's got building stuff action, it's got little gold, and it's got cards, and it's got fantasy. So it's hard to go wrong.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.